I'm joined by Andrew Marr in the studio now, LBC presenter, most of the week, Monday to Thursday from 6 o'clock, as you well know. Andrew, how long has she got?
I think if she doesn't go today, they'll get her out next week or the week after. The choice is to go today with dignity, in her own words, on her own terms, or be pulled out in a much more humiliating fashion later.
And this press conference at 2:30, that is, I guess, an opportunity for her to do that.
It would be an opportunity.
But there are other options available to her, aren't there? And she'll probably take those.
Well, there certainly are. I mean, we're hearing right now that she's appointing Jeremy Hunt as her new Chancellor of the Exchequer. Now, Jeremy Hunt is very much on the opposite wing of the Conservative Party to her. He would not share any of her sort of core economic views about growth and unfunded tax cuts or anything like that. So it is the most radical message she could send to the markets about change. I've changed my mind. I've got it wrong. I'm U-turning on the whole thing.
The anti-Quasi candidate.
He is the anti-Quasi Chancellor. The other thing I would say about it, now, I think she's toast. But if she's not toast, I think what she's doing is she is, as it were, listening to the plotters who are moving against her at the moment. And their idea was assemble a kind of shadow cabinet, a shadow Tory cabinet, reaching out to all parts of the party, and then go in and tell her it's over and replace her with a kind of emergency Conservative cabinet which looks in all directions inside the Conservative Party. And in that, you would very likely have seen Jeremy Hunt being there. So perhaps she's trying to preempt it by doing it herself, as it were, creating a non-trust or even an anti-trust cabinet under Liz Truss.
And the people will say, well, why didn't she have the sense to do that in the first place? And if she didn't have the sense to do that in the first place, why is she there in the first place?
She's a rigid thinker. Some people would say that means she's a principled thinker, but she's not somebody who listens to much advice from the outside. She wouldn't be in this position if she was. And I think what's happened is that, over the course of the last few weeks, people have been saying to her again and again and again, this is not going to sustain. You can't fight the markets. You can't fight the markets. And she's thought, I don't know what she's thought. She's thought she can't. But what we have to say today is if you get rid of your mini budget, that means you've got rid of your growth strategy. If you get rid of your growth strategy and the Chancellor, who is your front person, because they were joined at the hip on this stuff.
Who are you, anyway?
Then there is it's not that she hasn't got a programme or that she hasn't got an agenda. I would say at this moment, she hasn't got a purpose in government at all.
Whatever happens in the days that you've described, the days ahead, either a resignation today or kicked out by the middle of the next week, however it works. What about our politics after that? What about the governance of this country after that?
So it seems to me there are, broadly speaking, two possibilities. Well, there are three, but the third one is a general election sooner. I think that is unlikely because the Conservatives would be effectively wiped out at this stage. So I think it's either a sort of completely different kind of what I would call an emergency cabinet or an emergency government of the best people they can assemble from inside the Conservative Party in Parliament to try to get the country through the next couple of years, try to get us through the next phase of the Ukraine war, get us through the turmoil in the markets, inflation, the energy crisis. And if she was really going to do that, and if she had any chance of staying, and I think it's remote, then she would have to bring in not just Jeremy Hunt, she'd have to bring in all the kind of clever people around government who've been left. William Hague could come back, for instance. Why? He's a young man. Maybe bring George Osborne back in put him into Lords, bring him back. She'd have to reach out to all the talent that the Conservative Party has lost from government. She'd bring back Johnsonites, even Johnson. Who knows?
That sounds like a lot of effort for an almost inevitable general election defeat in the end.
It does. A vast, vast plate of humble pie with grovel sauce to be eaten at speed over the next few days. And it's unlikely for that reason.
Yes.
And also, a lot of those people think, hold on a second, why would I go into this SHIT storm when I've got a perfectly nice life outside? Why would I put myself through this? And they wouldn't be wrong. So that's one alternative. The other alternative is that she tries to hold together a Liz Truss government with no purpose. It would effectively be a paralysed government because there's not much you can get through the House of Commons at the moment, and we limp ahead for 2 years. I think that is a hideous, ghastly prospect for the country.
Something like what we saw with Theresa May in 2019 over Brexit.
But for longer, Sheila. I mean, it strikes me that we meet across this very fine studio table on rare occasions. We were last talking on the occasion of the death of the Queen. We're now talking on the occasion of the death of a government.